our ability to balance and be champions of the customer, but equally have a duty of care to make the organization successful. They're not mutually exclusive. As CX practitioners, if we can keep those thoughts in our head at the same time, we're more successful and we're more influential.
Customer experience wisdom, a dash of travel talk. We've been cleared for takeoff.
The best meals are served outside and require a passport.
Hey, CX Passport travelers, welcome back to another CX Open to Work episode. I'm hoping that you do just like you've done in the past, do it today and do it in the future to help amplify today's guest and his career path. Today we have Adam Powers joining us from England. And before we hit record, he and I had a nice little chuckle about that because England right now, what are we at? July 11th is in the midst of all sorts of activity with elections to massive sporting events taking place and the celebration that goes on there. So I'm glad that Adam carved a little bit of time out of the absolute busyness that's going on in his country to talk to us here on CX Passport. A little bit about Adam. He is an experienced design leader with over a decade in meaningful work in this field. He's built and led high-performing design teams for some of the world's most iconic brands like Volkswagen, Johnson & Johnson, and GSK, serving both from an in-house perspective but also inside of agencies. Most recently, Adam served as the Chief Experience Officer at 26, where he unified creative, UX, and UI teams into a cohesive unit. Prior to that, he led global experience design team at HSBC, where he positioned experience design as a key partner to technology and product management. His ability to blend empathy and demanding leadership has consistently delivered significant commercial returns and deep human engagement. You know how important both of those are to creating a successful business. Buckle up, y'all. It's going to be a fun ride. Adam, welcome to CX Passport.
Thank you very much, Rick. It's good to be here.
It is. And for those that maybe they're listening to it later or they pulled your episode 2-3 years after, English elections, Wimbledon, and England is in the finals of the 2024 Euros. And so it is going to be quite the scene there. Right. I wish you all the best on Sunday as the match goes. I want to talk about customer experience, right? I ask these questions of almost every job seeker that joins us in the CX Open to Work series. What is it that drew you to customer experience? Why is this world important to you?
It's an interesting journey that I took. I started out as a traditional graphic designer working in the world of magazines and the music industry. And it wasn't until the kind of mid to late 90s that I discovered this thing called the World Wide Web, this emergent, extraordinary technology. And I thought, oh, there might be something in that, and started transferring my skills. And over the last, actually, it's very generous of you, not 10 years, but actually 30 years within this kind of domain.
Yeah.
Realizing the scope and scale of opportunity for those that have come from my background to be much more influential, to be able to shape experiences beyond the page or the website. And this idea of a kind of holistic approach to customer experience is what actually excites me most, that idea of orchestrating every aspect of a customer experience. And so increasingly over the last decade, as you rightly say, that has felt like a really rich place to operate. Mm-hmm. And I think of it more than just a job or a career, although clearly that's what it is.
Right.
I think there's a sense of how you think about things, and that happens to be a way that you make a living as well.
You said something in there that caught my ears, and it was that unifying theme that you were describing. I want to talk a little bit more about that because as you talk about, and you're right, certainly if you and I both have stories to tell from the 90s, so we share a similar approach there. We didn't know then what we know now, obviously. And a lot of that has been these fragmented pieces of what we now call customer experience. You're describing that unification. Tell me a little bit more about what you've seen and what you mean when you talk about unifying across that world.
I think on that journey, working with large organizations, but also to some degree with smaller businesses too, seeing those slightly fractured organizational structures, the silos within a business, and those businesses shipping those silos to customers and it not feeling like a coherent whole. And increasingly, for ambitious customer experience practitioners in whatever flavor, because clearly we come from many different worlds.
Right.
But this idea of orchestrating customer experience, being the conductor of many different instruments, but creating a whole that really works brilliantly together. And I think that's the ambition, that the ability to get a whole greater than the sum of the parts. And it's still today, it's 2024, and it's still a huge challenge that organizational leaders, that product owners, that call center managers, looking into a business through their individual pipe and not really looking left and right in terms of their role within the wider organization. The smarter businesses have gotten there, and you can see that. And certainly some of the younger upstarts, where they've been able to build their business like that, that's, they've been successful because they've been able to do that. Some of the huge international organizations, these oil tankers of global businesses, much, much harder to do.
Sure.
But when you start making progress in those kind of organizations, it's incredibly rewarding too. So I think the challenges are different, but that's really what I was thinking about in terms of that kind of holistic orchestration of customer experience.
This is your captain speaking. I want to thank you for listening to CX Passport today. We've now reached our cruising altitude, so I'll turn that seatbelt sign off. While you're getting comfortable, hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. Love it if you'd tell a friend about CX Passport, leave a review so others can discover the show as well. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Yeah, Adam, I see how that unification is so important. And what kind of makes me chuckle a little bit is it's naive, perhaps, for me as a CX person or just CX people in general to think that somehow we have risen above silos and don't need to tackle that same sort of unification across those silos. And I'm glad that that's something that is, you focused on and have drawn certainly our eyes and ears to today. Thinking about that unification, or just thinking about positive experiences that you have created for customers in the past, how have you created an experience your customers wanted in the past?
So I'll circle back around to the first part. So I think you're absolutely right in that we can't wave a magic wand and have those silos disappear. And also from my experience, both client side and agency side, as an agency consultant and partner, it is even harder than if you're inside the engine room of an organization as an employee, a colleague, and a peer. But certainly where, one particular example is leading a team for the onboarding experience of mobile banking for the international bank that you mentioned that I worked for. Mm-hmm. And the idea that, security being such a big part of that process, we had a suite of 50 plus questions that somebody would have to wade through. It might take 20, 25 minutes before their mobile banking app was up and running.
Oh, gosh.
And actually and because of the transference of experiences, so the expectations of quickly signing up for Netflix or getting an Uber account running, those evaluations are being held to banks, even though the responsibilities and requirements are very different. But what we were able to do, and I had a brilliant and proactive UX lead, CX lead on that, coordinating that process, was to really interrogate the number of questions that were required. Genuinely, what were the minimum viable question set, but also figuring out where there are moments where you do, as a customer, want to feel some friction. So we talk a lot about frictionless experiences. There are instances around security and safety and banking where you want to feel like there's some friction, that there's attention being given as a duty of care. And so we were able to, and Ilko, my colleague who led the project, were able to create an experience that reduced that sign-up time to more like 7 minutes. We still got all the questions answered that the business needed, but in challenging back to the business, do you really need these? And I think the critical point there is that as CX practitioners, as CX leaders, you can't do it on your own. This is a team effort. It's not a solo performance.
Yeah.
So you have to work with the kind of security and legal teams, work with brand, work with engineering and product, and really get them to come with you on the journey to make those experiences vastly improved. And we know from the kind of prototyping and rollout, this made a really significant difference to not least the completion of that journey to activate the app and then start using it, but actually the brand perception as well, that actually for a 150-year-old global bank, operating more like one of these kind of agile startups that try and remove all the obstacles out of the way was noteworthy. So I think it had benefits in kind of many facets.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much in there that I want to talk about. The idea of the CX team, and whatever the label is, like, it doesn't even really matter, but the team that is focused on trying to make this better for the customer, that they are the ones pushing back against the company's rules, against the company's legacy, against the company's history of doing things. It reminds me of something that we did actually at a bank. It's interesting that may be where the biggest push is. This was decades ago at a bank that has been absorbed into another brand at this point. There were 2 signatures required for a check. And it slowed the process significantly and this was in business banking, for a customer to get a certain payment for a certain thing. And it had just been the way it was. And it was the customer team that was pushing back, saying, well, show me the regulation. The customer doesn't want this. Show me the rule. Show me the rule. And to a little bit of irritation to those and perhaps the regulatory side of the bank, but eventually realizing, oh, wait, there isn't a rule. We just have been doing it this way. And so that idea of going from 20 minutes worth of questions and dropping that over 50% and dropping that down to significantly, that idea of it's the customer's voice through the customer team that helps push back and bring that forward. That leads to these kind of things like tangible business results, which I talk about all the time, because it's great that you make the customer happy, but that's not what's going to make your CFO or your shareholders happy. So how does this delivery, either that example or in your general experience, Adam, how does the delivery of customer experience affect business results?
So in another example, I was leading a project with a global software marketing company that we'd all know, and working on their small business hub. So speaking to ma and pa shops, trying to sell their advertising services and various other tools and technologies. And through some really rigorous CX work, some great design work and creative thinking, we were able to take what was a really complex kind of takeaway menu, things that the ma and pa shops didn't understand, and turn it into language and display it in a way that they completely understood it, the kind of real world analogies. But what was so important was that we tested this in the wild instinctively, and with our rapid prototyping, we felt confident about it. But this organization, A/B tested, multivariate tested everything that they put live. And they put our solution up for 3 months. And we were very confident, and they were very shy about telling us what happened. But at the end of the 3 months, they came back to us and said, we've seen a 617% increase in conversion. So
Whoa.
More of our advertising products sold. And another aspect of it, a 187% increase. So the most significant step change in any of the products at that particular time. And that directly translated to increased revenue. There's an absolute through line through that customer experience. And I won't pretend it was easy. There was a lot of the kind of muscle memory pushback that you described, but there's no arguing with those kind of numbers. So even though before we went into the A/B testing, our relationship might have been a little bit prickly because we really made them jump through some hoops. After that 3 month period, they came back and went, you know what, guys, you are absolutely right. This is sensational. And you have to bank those case studies and either use them in the organization or take them with you and use them elsewhere. Because I think that our ability to balance and be champions of the customer and humans, but equally have a duty of care to make the organization successful. They're not mutually exclusive. And as CX practitioners, if we can keep those thoughts in our head at the same time, I think we're more successful and we're more influential when we're there trying to do the work.
Wow, like those last couple sentences there, I think need to be put on a t-shirt. Like, that's brilliant. That's exactly what we need to be doing as CX, that we're representing the customer and we're cognizant of what this means towards business results. I love how you said that. That was great. I also loved, and this is just me being a little bit across the pond discussion, I love the phrase prickly. And I was thinking about, I want to start using that in my meetings if they get a little, off kilter or whatever. Are we being prickly with each other or something along those lines? Well, when that happens, and let's talk about, say when we're traveling, sometimes it can travel itself can get prickly. And that's when it's nice to stop down in a lounge somewhere, take a break, get a drink, get a snack, and just take a break. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to jump here in the first class lounge. We'll move quickly-ish here and have a little bit of fun. What is a dream travel location from your past?
Cuba. So about 25 years ago, I went to Cuba with a friend, and I was not at that point terribly well traveled. I'd been to the US a lot, I had family there, but I hadn't been out of the UK a huge amount. And so it was the most extraordinary experience and felt like I was stepping back into the 50s. I already had a love of the music,
Yeah.
but discovering the island and Havana and many other parts really gave me an appetite for travel and was a life-changing experience. And it's something that I would, to this day, love to share with my own family. But it was extraordinary.
If viewers saw this, I don't know if I was audible enough, but I just gasped with the largest smile because, as you know, the political relationship between U.S. and Cuba is not there. And so it is near impossible for me to, at least legally, travel to Cuba. There are ways for me to get there. And so I'm jealous of my UK friends. I've got some Canadians that talk about going to Cuba from time to time. And I would love to experience, and for you to describe it as life-changing just makes me want to go there even more. Is there any place like that? What's a dream travel location that you've not been to yet?
I'm kind of torn. It's certainly Asia. It was Tokyo, and Japan's a long way away, but everything about the culture, the food, the people, incredibly appealing. But I'm torn now as more and more we discover in the UK about South Korea and Seoul.
Yeah.
And certainly in the world that I operate in, kind of technology, customer experience, and those kind of things, just an extraordinary country of innovation as well. But I think if there was Tokyo has been my longest crush location. I'm going to go. I love it. I haven't been there. I haven't met you. We've not been out on a date. But I would really, really love to go to Tokyo.
Oh, that is the best description I've ever heard of the dream travel location. You're even giving me the temptation to call it, hey, what's your crush travel location? I love it. Having said this before and having had the chance to go there, Japan is spectacular. My son actually studied abroad there and so got to spend some time there. He got to spend longer time there. And so when you mentioned South Korea and Japan, geographically, not too hard to get between the two. He actually just bipped over to South Korea for a weekend when he was staying there. Actually, it was a visa run, but I may have to edit that out. So had to go for the weekend. Make sure Kyoto's in your list as well, not just Tokyo. It is it's a wonderful country and great food, as you mentioned. So what is a favorite thing of yours to eat?
Oh, I'm a massive foodie, and I cook a lot and love given the opportunity to eat out. But there's a simple thing from early trips to France. I was introduced to confit de canard, or duck confit, the kind of unctuous duck leg with crispy skin and soft, moist meat with a rich kind of gamey taste. That is, whenever I see that on a menu, it's hard to pull me away from that. It's something that I really love. It's a little easier to get in the United Kingdom now, certainly, than 20 odd years ago, but it is still a treat, I think, because of the richness of the meat. But yeah, I think that's my my favorite.
I can see why that would be. And I like that there's kind of a story and the fact that you like to cook as well. So you said you're a foodie. Well, it'll be interesting to hear the answer to this. What is a food that you were forced to eat when you were growing up, but you hated as a kid?
So as a young boy in the 70s in and around London, UK, I mean, the food scene, it was like a different world all those years ago.
Right.
And my dad was a very simple man with very simple tastes. And as a kid, you ate what you were given, and that's what he wanted. You know, you didn't have the opportunity to choose.
Right.
And he would love this lamb stew with dumplings, this kind of suet balls floating on the top. But the quality, cooked poorly. And my mum was a fine cook, but there's a lot of fat content in lamb, and there'll be a
Oh,
layer
yeah.
of fat bobbing across the top of the stew. And I was a fussy kid. There's no question. As a little boy, I was incredibly fussy. But then, and it has a particular smell that used to fill the house. And I remember being in my bedroom going, "Oh God, no, stew again."
Does this window open? Yeah, can I get out?
The long walk down to the dining table with my kind of dragging my feet and just pushing stuff around my plate to make it look like I'd at least eaten a little bit of it. Yeah, that still triggers me to this day.
Well, I'm sorry to bring it up, although actually I'm not sorry, because that presents such a delightful image. Well, comical. Let's not use delightful image in my head. I thank you for sharing that. We will have to exit the lounge, unfortunately. So what is one travel item, not including your phone, not including your passport, that you will not leave home without?
I have some favoured sunglasses. They are battered, chipped. I've had them for many years. And let's face it, it's a rare occasion you get to use them legitimately in the UK. but I always got to have them with me. And there's a kind of tapping system that goes on. Okay, I've got my wallet, I've got my phone, and my sunglasses. And there's that kind of automatic check when I leave the house. So, yes, I think that would be my item besides the mobile phone.
Adam, I love the idea. There's the concept of what is it, EDC, everyday carry, and it's the what always goes with you in your pockets. And so I love that you're doing the pocket pat. I do the same thing as well, and that it's those battered sunglasses that you've been able to hang on to, which is sometimes a rare feat to be able to pull off.
That's true.
What is going back to customer experience? What is it that companies are missing today in customer experience, and what do they need to do to improve on that?
I think there are still huge challenges actually around employee experience and colleague experience. The critical nature of your team's ability to do their job in order to deliver a brilliant customer experience, and still too many organizations are focused outside of their walls rather than thinking around what are the tools that our teams are using, what's the context, what's the culture. I mean, Richard Branson famously talked about looking after your teams, your staff, and the customer experience will look after itself. And I think that, and this is decades old, but I think it's even more true than it's ever been. And I think that why it's amplified also. If you look at the world of retail, increasingly automated checkouts and experiences, reducing the number of humans in. This is having a real knock-on effect, customer experience in the retail environment. So I'm speaking for the UK, but what I have noticed in countries like Australia, where they've found the same, they've introduced slow lanes at their checkouts.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and so for elderly citizens who maybe don't have many people to talk to, the idea of doing shopping on an enormous kind of tablet is terrifying. And actually, that may be the only conversation they have that day or that week is with the person at the checkout. So, but equally, there are these huge enterprise solutions like SAP and many others. The software exists, which don't feel like they're designed for real humans to use. Mm-hmm. And so, your teams, and sometimes these are tens, hundreds of thousands of people, are having to kind of deliver great service or good experience in spite of the tools that they have to use. Or sometimes they have, and I consulted with several financial services organizations, and at the counter, there might be 7 different software platforms that salesperson would have to bounce through in order to deliver on what that person behind the desk, the customer in front of them needed, rather than a sense of actually investing effort into consolidating that. Yeah. So almost the kind of the tools in the interaction disappear, and it's actually about being in service to the customer. And quite literally, some of the colleague tools are just getting in the way of happy customers. So I think that kind of EX, the employee experience, is something that really needs to be dialed up. There are too few organisations giving that the time and attention that it deserves.
Well, let's talk about that then. I'm glad you brought in employee experience because it's been talked about on the show as well, and it is a vital part of the delivery of customer experience. Love that you brought in the barrier that tools and systems and processes can create for an employee being able to even deliver. Let's say that they truly wanted to, and they just simply can't. How can Adam help companies improve customer and or employee experience today?
I think there's a combination of things. I think directly relating to employee experience, it's about taking moments and the time to apply the same rigor and analysis and empathy that you would to your customer experience to that colleague experience. So for those moments, they're your end user, and bring the same rigorous thinking and analytics to improving that, and then you'll see a kind of times 10 knock on for your customers. What I also think is, again, from my point of view, the ability, we go back to orchestration, the ability to be able to coordinate different capabilities within an organization to then come together and deliver brilliant customer experience. So again, from my own experience, the ability, we're working with a large automotive company to be thinking about not just the car configurator software on the website, but also what are the digital tools that the sales staff are using in the auto dealership?
Yeah.
How do you connect the dots between what you've selected in your config and what they talk to you about, and have it all related, but then also be a return path and be thinking about not just the sale, but also what about the in-life experience of that service, and how do you continue adding customer lifetime value? So I think part of it is helping an organization open their aperture to think about the different effective parts and then help them coordinate it. And I think, one of the things that I've experienced is that it's often the case that maybe only the CEO is concerned about all of that working. And when they look at their exec board, they're worried about their slice. And I think there's a great, like we talked about earlier, Rick, I think that sense of being able to help with that orchestration.
Yeah. Well, and that orchestration, that unification, that silo busting, insert word here, so required. And it takes someone that's focused on it or just naturally we slide into our silos, we stay there. And so someone coming in and looking across like that. Well, what's next for you with customer experience? Where do you want to be next?
So I'm looking for gnarly challenges. One of I've learned, I've had the big scale thing, I've had the very small role with tiny teams, and certainly I think I need some scale to have impact. And at this point in my career, I'm slightly fussier about that, having done many things. But I think also, you get to a certain point in your career where, you've done the job title thing, you've done the scale thing. Actually, the interest is, what kind of difference can I make with this organization and to their customers? Mm-hmm. And, that sense of satisfaction where you deliver on something or you drive change and you realize that that's going to affect the lives of perhaps millions of people, depending on the brand you're working with, but certainly hundreds, tens of thousands of people, and make that for the better, but also have helped that business grow to go to a place that it might not have gone had you not been there as a catalyst for it and a team member and a colleague. And so I'm looking for those kind of fertile environments where I can make that kind of contribution.
Nice.
But I think also with a leadership team that actually understands some of this world and some of the things we've talked about. Mm-hmm. I think I've worked in enough environments now where it's been like kind of showing a dog a card trick, that you're trying to present them what they need to do and they just don't get it.
Right.
But equally, I think it's really interesting working with an organization perhaps where the light bulb has just gone off, but they're not quite sure how to get to where they need to. So it's, I think it's a really interesting time. Yeah. And I think there are extraordinary opportunities out there, and I'd love to help folks with it.
Yeah, I love many of the themes there, and the one that you ended on there, that you're talking about a company that's got the eagerness, but maybe not the awareness of how. And what a delight that would be to be a part of that. Absolutely. Well, Adam, if folks listening to this want to get to know you, want to help advance that open to work space, or just have a conversation with you, what's the best way for folks to get to know more about you and connect with you?
I think probably the easiest place is using my LinkedIn profile. And my details are there. I'd love to have a chat. And I'm always looking to build out my network. And even at this point in my career, always be learning for me as well. It's so, if people have got things they want to share with me that might help me be a better practitioner, then I'm all ears.
Excellent. Well, of course, Adam and listeners and viewers, scroll down. It's there. Click the link, connect with Adam, and have a deeper conversation than what we were able to do here in 30 minutes. However, I really enjoyed these 30 minutes, Adam.
Me too.
You took us on a fun little run here, and I've enjoyed that. The unification really sits with me. The idea of breaking across those various silos to then create the tangible business value that customer experience can actually provide, all while realizing that your employee experience is an area that is perhaps under-focused on and a place where you and others can help really improve. I like where you took us on all of that, Adam. It has been an absolute delight today. Adam, thank you for being on CX Passport.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. If you like today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. Click subscribe on the CX Passport YouTube channel or your favorite podcast app. Next, leave a comment below the video or a review in your favorite podcast app so others can find and enjoy CX Passport too. Then head over to cxpassport.com for show notes and resources that can help you create tangible business results by delivering great customer experience. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.